Chapter 573. You can handle it. The woman was about to say something when she suddenly saw a shocking scene. Yi Chen's right hand rested on the young man's shoulder, and in the next second, a horrifying sword intent exploded out. This sword intent contained a boundless killing intent, and under the washing of the killing intent, the cold chi in the cave was instantly obliterated. The young man's body shook as he felt as if he was being cut by 1,000 blades. However, compared to the feeling of being cut by 1,000 blades, the temporary recovery of his consciousness gave him a glimmer of hope amidst the despair. Ah! Feeling the enormous threat, the vague human figure behind the young man let out an eerie and sharp roar. This roar didn't have any killing power, but it directly penetrated into the soul. The young man and the woman's consciousness immediately became muddled, and they were completely defenseless. Piss off! A silver light beam shot out of Yi Chen's eyes as the killing sword intent shot out. Its power increased to another level as it landed on the blurry human figure. Pop! Yi Chen's killing sword intent was extremely horrifying. If it were not for the fact that he was afraid that the teenager might not be able to handle it, he would have suppressed the power and range. Otherwise, that attack would have been more than enough to destroy the blurry human figure. Although it was not destroyed, it was still blown out of the teenager's body by the sword intent. Once the blurry human figure left the teenager, it could not be seen anymore. Even Yi Chen would not be able to sense it, unless he opened his soul eye again. But opening it twice in such a short period of time would consume a lot of his soul power, which would make him quite exhausted. Pap! As the blurry human figure disappeared, the teenager's body softened, and he knelt on the ground. Zhuoqiu! The girl hurried to help the teenager up. I am fine now. The teenager's voice was very weak, and his body was cold. Let me help you up. Holding the teenager up, the girl looked at Yi Chen. She thought that Yi Chen was only a normal Sea of Souls realm warrior, who was not even as powerful as her. But now, she did not think so anymore. His sword intent was extremely horrifying, and even that weird thing could not handle it at all. It had been blown out of Zhuoqiu's body. You have saved Zhuoqiu's life, which means you have saved mine. So, from now on, I, Li Qingxiang, owe you my life. The woman said gratefully. Yi Chen didn't care too much about their words. What he cared about was their names. He asked, are you Zhuoqiu and Li Qingxiang from the southern sector? That's right. You are. The woman and the young man raised their heads. Yi Chen smiled. Maybe you don't know me. My name is Yi Chen. Yi Chen. The girl named Li Qingxiang froze for a second before smiling as well. Yes, how could we not know each other? You were the host of the last tea gathering, and Zhuoqiu was also the host of the tea gathering. We pay a lot of attention to it. Since we're all from the southern sector, there's no need to thank us or owe us anything. When we're outside, we should help if we can. If it were you guys, you would probably do the same. Zhuoqiu swallowed a pill to replenish his energy. Then, with Li Qingxiang's support, he slowly stood up and said with a bitter smile, I didn't expect the one who saved me to be you, the famous person in the southern sector. Maybe this is fate. By the way, where is that thing? Yi Chen glanced around and said, it was badly damaged, so it should have left. The slaughter sword intent was targeted at the invisible and shadowless evil creatures, and its lethality was extremely high. Not to mention these evil creatures, even warriors at the same level would not be able to withstand the impact of the sword intent at close range. The sword intent could ignore physical defenses and directly harm the opponent's mind. However, the opponent was not an idiot. He would definitely release his martial will to counteract the sword intent, and after a part of the sword intent was counteracted, the lethality would be almost negligible. Zhuoqiu said with lingering fear, this place is very strange. A high cultivation doesn't mean anything, but a powerful martial intent. Both Qingxiang and I have high martial intent, but we still couldn't hurt that thing. If we stay here for a long time, it will take advantage of us. Yi Chen nodded. This place was indeed strange. He could vaguely feel that there was something horrifying down there, like the source of hell. We shouldn't stay here for long. Let's go out together. Li Qingxiang suggested. Yi Chen said, I still have something to do. You guys go out first. Don't worry. That thing was hit by my slaughter sword intent, so it won't be able to threaten you anymore. Then, be careful. Zhou Qiu and Li Qingxiang did not want to stay here anymore. This place gave them too much pressure. If it were not for Yi Chen, they wouldn't even know what would happen to them. The two left the cave and flew back the way they came. Soon, they disappeared from Yi Chen's perception. Shadowless demon? Yi Chen mumbled to himself. East Royal City Pavilion, there was a transportation stone door in the side hall on the first floor. Woo! The whirlpool inside the door spun, and a man in black robes walked out. This brat is really good at running. He actually came to the Sky Martial region. The man in black robes was indeed Yin Demon Ancestor. He had first gone to the Thunder City Pavilion to ask about Yi Chen. After knowing that Yi Chen had come to the Sky Martial region, he directly went to the East Royal City Pavilion through the transportation door. Of course, he had paid a huge price, which was half of his wealth. If it were not for the fact that he had made up his mind to get the Undying Body's secret art, he would not have wasted it like this. I want to ask about someone. Walking out of the side hall, Yin Demon Ancestor said to the cold beauty. What cultivation? If it is below the Sea of Souls realm, then you should just leave. The pavilion was not omniscient. They would only search for valuable information. Warriors below the Sea of Souls realm would not be worth it. If it were personal information, then it would be a different story. Of course, personal information of warriors below the astral reaching realm would not be worth it either. Sea of Souls realm cultivation. As he said these words, Yin Demon Ancestor cursed inwardly. He had already known that Yi Chen had reached the Sea of Souls realm, which was really unimaginable. 6th floor. The cold beauty said. Hearing her, Yin Demon Ancestor walked toward the stairs directly. It was not the first time that he had searched for people through the pavilion, so he was quite familiar with the way. Inside the number 1 room on the 6th floor, what a coincidence. The person you are looking for just came here to ask for information 10 days ago. Because he is our customer, you will have to double the price, which would be 100,000 top-ranked soul stones. The elder said expressionlessly. Hearing him, Yin Demon Ancestor clenched his teeth. All right, I will take it. His heart was bleeding. He had already spent half of his family's wealth in the Thunder City Pavilion, and now that he was in the East Royal City Pavilion, he would have to spend another half. Right now, his wealth was not even comparable to a normal Sea of Souls realm warrior. An underground crack 5.5 million miles northwest of the East Royal City. The elder said calmly. There were huge mountains everywhere, seeming to be endless. Shoo! Shoo! 2 human figures shot out of a huge mountain, heading into the distance. Young Master Ping. On a mountain peak not far away, a group of people stood there. One of them saw the two leaving, so he reminded the tall teenager in the lead. The tall teenager's gaze followed the direction of the two and said, let's go check it out. Yes. The group of people flew out. Inside the huge mountain, near the crack, finally found it. Let's go down. A joyful expression flashed through Gu Ping's face as his body disappeared into the black qi, heading toward the crack. The rest of them did not hesitate as they followed. Shadowless demon, although you are a nightmare for most people, for me, you are a powerful tool. No one knows that I have found a powerful secret art of making shadowless demons in an ancient ruin. With this art, I can make shadowless demons into shadowless puppets, which will allow me to take over the bodies of my enemies and make them work for me. With enough shadowless puppets, there will be more death warriors who are willing to die for me. Hee hee. Flying in the front, a creepy look flashed through Gu Ping's face. Young Master Ping, I have sensed the 1,000 miles soul chasing incense. It is right down there. Right then, someone behind him said happily. Hearing him, Gu Ping's expression changed. Good things happen one after another. Let's follow them. Remember, do not alert them. Keep a certain distance. If Yi Chen ran into the shadowless demon and both of them were badly wounded, then his success rate would be much higher, and he would be able to get a death warrior. Swoosh! The group of people heard the sound of flowing water, so they came to the river and looked around. They did not know where the river was leading to. Following the direction of the river, they could see that the ground was getting lower and lower, and the water was getting faster and faster. In the end, it had turned into a series of waterfalls, looking like a huge staircase. Eventually, the water flowed into a straight crack, going all the way down to the bottom. It was an extremely creepy place. It was pitch black, and one could not even see their fingers in front of them. Even soul power could not spread out in this place. Chin. A chain clanking sound was heard, as if the god of death had returned. Yeah, my demonic will is wounded. Quite a powerful sword intent, and its power has reached the peak of rank 5. Not bad, it is qualified to be one of my clones. Hee, they thought that this thing was a shadowless demon. Unfortunately, this is a shadowless demon with an owner, which is also formed by my demonic will. Killing one shadowless demon would not hurt me at all. I can create more shadowless demons anytime I want. Deep in the darkness, a horrifying voice was heard. Go! A vague vibration spread out, and endless evil wind rushed up through the crack. If one could see it with their naked eyes, they would know that it was exactly the same as the blurry human shadows from before. However, there were so many of them that it was hard to imagine. With each breath, there would be dozens of blurry human shadows flying out. The blurry human shadows jumped into the river and went against the current. Wherever they went, the cold air spread out, and even the water seemed to have stopped. Along the way, the blurry human shadows passed by a lake, which was shining with green light spots. It seemed like it was formed by the gathering of green light. The crack is too big. If I follow the water, I should be able to find the lake. Walking out of the cave, Yi Chen followed the direction of the river and walked deeper. Below him, countless blurry human shadows were rushing towards Yi Chen. According to their speed, it would only take half an hour for them to run into each other. Unknowingly, Yi Chen was facing a situation where there were wolves in front of him and tigers behind him. Of course, he did not know it yet. Chapter 574. Human Puppet Art, Assimilate. Beside the river, Gu Ping suddenly stopped his body. Both of his hands moved like butterflies as he formed a spell. All of a sudden, an invisible power spread out with him as the center. It was extremely powerful, but it did not even cause a ripple in the river. Buzz! From the surface of the river, a blurry human shadow was shaken out, flying towards where Gu Ping was. This is the shadowless demon. So weird. The warriors brought by Gu Ping could feel their scalps tingling as they could not help but take 2 steps back. Don't worry. This shadowless demon will not be able to do anything to me. Gu Ping laughed out loud. The secret art that he had obtained from the ancient ruins was indeed the forbidden art of the puppet martial school, the human puppet art. It was different from normal puppet arts, as the materials used for it were not inanimate objects, but living ones. Because of how evil this secret art was, it eventually led to the destruction of the puppet martial school. He's injured. Gu Ping thought that it would not be easy to make the shadowless demon, since he had never tried it before. However, the process was surprisingly smooth. He could tell that the shadowless demon was very weak, as if it had been injured before. Shadowless puppet, done. After that, Gu Ping opened his left hand and closed his fingers. All of a sudden, the blurry human figure shrunk into a ball and gathered in his palm. Gu Ping opened his left hand again. There was no longer a blurry human figure, only a blurry ghost mark. It was like a living creature, twisting and turning. It's done. I didn't think it would be so easy. After successfully crafting a shadowless puppet, Gu Ping was filled with confidence. He felt like he could see countless death warriors following behind him, fighting for him. The human puppet art of the puppet sect? This brat's luck isn't small, he actually obtained something that many people dream of. Unfortunately, the human path puppet technique isn't that easy to cultivate. If I didn't remove my control over the demonic will, I would have turned you into an idiot just now. Deep underground, a cold and ethereal voice rang out. Let's go. There should be more shadowless demons down there. Gu Ping was flying in the front with high spirits, absorbing all the cold chi around him into the mark on his palm. There is a shadowless demon here as well, but not the one before. The slaughter sword intent automatically protected his body. Like cutting a piece of paper, it sliced a blurry human figure that was attacking him into dozens of pieces, which were hard to heal. What? Slaughter sword intent. An exclamation came from the depths of the ground, as if it was extremely fearful of Yi Chen's sword intent. Ha! My demonic soul is at peak level rank 7, and the demonic will that I split out is also at rank 5. Let's see how much you can handle. If you were a life and death realm warrior, then I might be a bit worried, since I would not let my demonic will get damaged for nothing. Unfortunately, you are only at Sea of Souls realm. Although you have the power of your sword intent, your control over it is still not as good as a life and death realm warrior. Take over his body. The voice calmed down and became eerie and terrifying. Buzz 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 buzz, a formless vibration spread out, and countless blurry human figures rushed out of the river, attacking toward Yi Chen. Their protective Jin Yuan was practically non-existent. Kill! Inside his sea of soul, the slaughter sword spirit vibrated. Halos of sword intent spread out one after another. With Yi Chen as the center, not a single blurry figure could get close to him. All of them were bounced away. Those blurry figures lost their strength and sank into the river to recover. Come back! A voice was heard from the depths of the ground. Those wounded blurry figures went back the way they came, eventually merging into the darkness. In the next second, brand new blurry figures rushed out and joined the battle. So many shadowless demons. Yi Chen's expression changed slightly. Destruction sword intent, go! As the slaughter sword spirit vibrated, the second sword spirit vibrated as well. Meanwhile, the slaughter element in his sea of soul merged with the sword intent released by the second sword spirit, forming a slightly weaker destruction sword intent, but with a more horrifying aura. The combination of the destruction sword intent and the slaughter sword intent was like a tornado, spreading out in all directions. Those blurry human figures were first sliced into pieces, then swept by the destruction sword intent, melting them into nothingness. Even the possibility of recovery was gone. Damn! This is the destruction sword intent, which is even more horrifying than the slaughter sword intent. Where did he learn it from? No! If I keep losing the demon will like this, it will affect my demon soul greatly. I will take over the bodies of the people behind me first. The being in the depths of the ground had a slight fear towards the destruction sword intent. Although the slaughter sword intent could also destroy his demon will, it was only in a one-on-one situation. Meanwhile, the destruction sword intent was pure destruction. No matter if it was tangible or intangible, nothing could survive it. All the blurry figures dove into the river at the same time, quickly swimming upstream. They left? Yi Chen frowned. He finally knew why Zhuo Qiu and Li Qingxiang could not even handle one shadowless demon. First of all, their martial spirits were only rank 4, while his slaughter sword spirit was only at the peak of rank 4, but its power was at the peak of rank 5. There was a whole rank and a half difference between the two. Secondly, the martial intent was more balanced than the sword intent, which was the sword intent. Its speed, defense, and attacking power would all be increased. However, in the underground crack, balance meant mediocrity. If one's attack power was not enough, then they would not be able to hurt the shadowless demons. Although the defense power of the will had been increased, under the constant attacks of the shadowless demons, there would still be a time when one would feel tired. Any slight carelessness would lead to the shadowless demons being taken advantage of. However, Yi Chen's sword intent could destroy the shadowless demons with one attack. Even facing a group of shadowless demons, he could still hurt them. As for the defense power of the will, Yi Chen did not need it at all. Before those shadowless demons even got close, the sword intent would have already sensed it, and it would automatically protect itself. Added with the destruction sword intent, Yi Chen was as hard to deal with as a porcupine. I will deal with it when it comes. I will go look for the rootless flower and the shadowless plant first. In this cold and gloomy environment, Yi Chen did not feel the slightest bit of fear. On the path of martial Dao, there was no room for cowardice or fear. The sword Dao was born from the martial Dao, but it was even harsher than the martial Dao. Shoo! Turning into a beam of blue light, Yi Chen flew downstream. Ah! Master Ping, save me! Something is trying to take over my body. I cannot hold it anymore. Save me! I do not want to be taken over. Screams were heard everywhere as Gu Ping's face turned pale. Where did all these shadowless demons come from? How can I handle them all by myself? If it were just 2 or 3 of them, Gu Ping would have the confidence to handle them. But there were dozens of them, and Gu Ping thought he could protect himself. Plus, according to the information he got from the pavilion, there were not that many of them in the underground crack. Human puppet spell. Train. The invisible power spread out like a net, grabbing the dozens of shadowless demons that were trying to take over the Gu family warriors' bodies. However, the power of the dozens of shadowless demons had already surpassed the pulling power of the human puppet spell. No matter how hard Gu Ping pushed his puppet spell to its limit, he still could not stop them from taking over their bodies. All he could do was watch them enter his warriors' bodies. Puppet Pearl. At the critical moment, Gu Ping threw out a shining bead, which spun and floated above his head. Right after that, the bead shot out the same power as the human puppet spell, increasing its power. Come here. With the help of the pearl, Gu Ping was like a god. His invisible power had been doubled, and he managed to drag the dozens of shadowless demons out. Ha! You even have a puppet pearl? What a great fortune! But it is not worth mentioning in my eyes. Demon will drill. A light vibration spread out as 4 shadowless demons combined together, turning into a shapeless drill, drilling into the pearl. Pap! The cracks on the surface of the pearl spread out, and the dim light dimmed. No! My puppet pearl! Gu Ping's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. The puppet orb was a support item that could push his human puppet art to another level. It was exactly because of the orb that he dared to come to this underground crack. After all, he knew that his human puppet art had not been trained to completion yet. Crack! The puppet pearl was shattered, turning into a dim light and disappearing. Run! Gu Ping did not have any other thoughts. As long as there was life, there would be hope. This many shadowless demons had already crossed his bottom line. Where do you think you are going? Upstream, more and more shadowless demons appeared, surrounding the group. Ah! Ah! At the same time, all of the Gu family warriors that Gu Ping had brought had their bodies taken over one after another. Their eyes turned white as an intense cold chi rose from their bodies. They did not look like living creatures, but zombies. As more and more of the Gu family warriors were taken over, Gu Ping's face turned gray. He could never have thought that this fortune would turn into a nightmare. Your power is not bad, and you know the human puppet spell. Let my main demon will take over your body. Among those shadowless demons, a blurry human figure that was even more muscular walked out. It opened its mouth like a black hole, swallowing Gu Ping instantly. Gu Ping struggled inside the blurry human figure's body, using his martial will to attack it from time to time. But this blurry human figure was way more powerful than the other shadowless demons, so it did not help at all. After a long while, Gu Ping stopped struggling, allowing the human figure to enter his body and take over his body. Pap! Gu Ping's feet landed on the ground as he opened his eyes. Different from the others, his eyes did not turn white. Instead, they looked normal. However, there was a darkness in the depth of his pupils, as if there was something horrifying hiding inside. The cold chi on his body was very faint as well. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to sense it at all. With a grin, Gu Ping let out a creepy sound. Hee hee, I finally have a good incarnation. Now, I can use it to go out and see what the outside world is like. But before that, I will first take over that kid's body. His body is more suitable to be my incarnation. Once the two incarnations are formed, there might be a chance for me to escape. Go, let's go. Gu Ping waved his hand, and countless blurry human shadows jumped into the river, following the direction where the river was flowing. Meanwhile, the warriors of the Gu family who had been possessed flew forward numbly. Their movements were synchronized, and they looked lifeless. Chapter 575. It was a huge lake. The surface of the lake shone with green light spots, which made the whole lake look crystal clear. It was as if it was made up of green light, which was extremely magical. This is it. Seeing the lake, Yi Chen's eyes brightened, but then he looked confused. The underground crack was full of danger, and there were hundreds of shadowless demons. He wondered how the pavilion knew that the rootless flower and shadowless plant were growing here. Had a life and death realm warrior come here to check it out? No way. Yi Chen shook his head. Life and death realm warriors would not fall to this level. Then, would it be a top master level warrior? That was not possible either. The shadowless demon was way more dangerous than the rumors. If it were not for his slaughter sword intent and destruction sword intent that could suppress the shadowless demon, even if it were another master level warrior with a rank 5 sword intent, he would still be killed. How would Yi Chen know that the shadowless demons here were the demonic will of some powerful being? The owner of the demonic will would not care about normal warriors at all, and would not touch them at all. Only the young martial geniuses would be its prey. It could be seen from the fact that a group of powerful warriors from the Gu family had been possessed by the normal demonic will, while Gu Ping had been possessed by the main demonic will. The pavilion has a very high status. Perhaps they have some other unknown channels. Getting rid of all the unnecessary thoughts, Yi Chen lifted up his head and looked at the sky above the lake. Yi Chen's eyes flashed as he saw a floating green flower hundreds of meters away in the sky above the lake. It was only the size of a palm, with 2 petals that looked like thin wings. Below the flower, where the roots used to be, there were 2 extra feelers that looked like long legs, waving slightly. Come here. Yi Chen recognized it immediately. It was indeed the rootless flower. He waved his right hand, and a suction force appeared. It seemed like it had sensed the threat, as the 2 petals of the rootless flower flapped intensely, trying its best to fight against the suction force. Meanwhile, a huge amount of green light spots flew up into the sky, forming a green shield, blocking out Yi Chen's suction force. Interesting. Putting down his right hand, Yi Chen stomped on the ground lightly, and his whole body jumped out into the air, arriving in front of the green shield within a second. Break! He formed a fist with his right hand, and a thunder lion appeared. Yi Chen threw out a punch at the shield. Pap! Boom! Boom! The jade-green barrier surged with lightning and exploded with a bang. Yi Chen passed through it. Just as the rootless flower was about to fall into his hands, the undercurrent of the lake below surged, and a long black shadow rolled out as fast as lightning. Yi Chen's expression did not change. He retracted his right hand and reached for his waist. The next moment, a golden sword light burst out and flashed past, cutting the long black shadow in half. After doing all this, Yi Chen did not stop. His left hand reached out from his waist, like a green dragon coming out of the water or a venomous snake coming out of its hole. He grabbed the rootless flower that was trying to escape through the air. Then, he shrank his body and flew backward, avoiding the surprise attack of another black shadow. On the shore, Yi Chen used an extreme rank jade box to store the rootless flower and put it in his storage ring. He then looked at the place where the undercurrent was surging. Swoosh! The sound of water breaking rang out, and an object the size of a small mountain appeared. Around the small mountain were long black shadows dancing in the air. There were a total of 8 of them. In the center of the small mountain, 2 lantern-like balls of light suddenly lit up. Each ball was the size of a water tank, giving off a strong sense of oppression. It was a black octopus, a huge black octopus. Its body was not round, but rather sharp and jagged. There were colorful patterns all over its body, which were bright and eye-catching. Just by looking at its appearance, one could tell that it was an extremely poisonous black octopus. Die! 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 The black octopus spoke in the human language. Its voice was extremely creepy, going straight into people's souls. You are the one who will die. Putting his gold sword back into its scabbard, Yi Chen did not care about the black octopus at all. Boom! Yi Chen's words had angered the black octopus. Its water tank-sized eyes shone with a bright light, and all 8 of its tentacles waved in the air. It jumped out at Yi Chen, bringing up a beast power wind pressure that was powerful enough to shatter mountains. A circular pattern spread out at an extreme speed. Lifting up both of his hands, Yi Chen looked cold. Shoo! 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 In the next second, a beam of sword chi shot out from all 10 of his fingers, interweaving with each other like a huge green net. The black octopus was extremely fast, and it bumped into the green net. All of a sudden, the sound of countless sharp blades cutting through rocks was heard. Within a second, the black octopus's body was full of holes, and 3 of its tentacles had been cut off as well. They had all been shattered into pieces by that horrifying sword chi tornado. It seemed like it had not expected Yi Chen to be this horrifying. The black octopus screamed in fear, and its body shrunk before sinking down like lightning. Because it was sinking so fast, the lake water around it started to bulge up like an iron bucket, reaching dozens of meters high. The green light spot had the effect of blocking out soul power detection. Yi Chen waited for a while, and seeing that the black octopus did not show up again, he knew that it was scared. He could not help but smile, but soon, his smile froze on his face. He heard a dead air-piercing sound, so he turned around and saw a group of Gu family warriors with their eyes rolled up. The leader was indeed Gu Ping, who had a cold expression on his face. He was the only one who looked normal. These people have been possessed? Yi Chen could tell that something was wrong. Go! Gu Ping waved his hand, and all of the Gu family warriors who had been possessed jumped out at the same time, attacking towards Yi Chen, who was hundreds of meters away. At the same time, a huge amount of blurry human shadows mixed in with the Gu family warriors, waiting for the right moment to attack. A cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth as Yi Chen lifted up all 10 of his fingers once again. Sword Chi Tornado! All out! With every breath, each of his fingers would shoot out dozens of Lotus Heart Sword Chi beams. Adding all 10 of his fingers together, there were hundreds of beams of Sword Chi beams. The beams of Sword Chi beams shot out one after another, shining like stars, enveloping the 10 people in front of him. Swoosh! Swoosh! Ting! Ting! Some of the Gu family warriors were wearing top-rank defensive weapons, while some of them had taken out top-rank defensive shields. Half of them did not have top-rank defensive weapons, so under the Lotus Heart Sword Chi that contained the killing sword intent, their bodies were pierced through like a beehive, falling down onto the ground. Destruction Fist! Gu Ping moved with a cold face. He took one step forward, cracking the ground as he threw out a punch towards Yi Chen, which contained the Destruction Profound. The Lotus Heart Sword Chi had been destroyed, and Yi Chen took out his gold sword, waving out a crescent-shaped gold sword chi that clashed with Gu Ping's fist power. Bang! Like a huge firework exploding, the intense shockwave spread out in all directions, blowing away a lot of the Gu family warriors who were unable to move forward. The mental power attack had even made a lot of blurry human shadows scream and back out, clearing out a huge area of space. Destruction Fist! 8 Movement! A cold light flashed through Gu Ping's eyes. His body shook once, and 7 shadows appeared in the air. Including his real body, there would be 8 of them in total. 8 Gu Pings threw out their destruction fists at Yi Chen at the same time. That powerful fist power had twisted the space around, tearing apart the rocks around. Yi Chen took a deep breath as his whole body turned into a black shadow, moving in between the fist power. Along the way, a lot of blurry human shadows attacked, trying to stop Yi Chen from moving. However, with the intense killing sword intent and destruction sword intent on Yi Chen's body, the blurry human shadows could only slow down Yi Chen a little bit. This brat is definitely a good clone. We cannot let him go. The voice from deep underground was a bit hurried. He had never seen a sword artist genius with two types of sword intents. Compared to Yi Chen, Gu Ping seemed a lot weaker. Double sword. Go! Appearing in front of Gu Ping's real body within a second, Yi Chen held the gold sword in his right hand and the emerald longsword in his left. He crossed the two swords and threw out his most powerful sword attack. As the two sword lights interweaved together, a dark blue thunder lightning ball appeared, devouring Gu Ping instantly. Boom! The thunder moved like a snake, and Gu Ping's whole body was blown away, blood pouring out of all of his orifices. Flashing his body to dodge the attacks of the other Gu family warriors, Yi Chen frowned and thought to himself, I have to finish this as soon as possible. It feels a bit weird. With that thought in mind, Yi Chen put the two swords back into their scabbards and took out his semi-extreme rank great sword, the Thunder Disaster Sword. Whoo! The sword body was like a beam of lightning as Yi Chen stabbed out with it. The sword's speed kept on increasing, and in the end, it was almost ignoring the distance between them. Swoosh! Gu Ping's throat was stabbed, and his eyes lost their light. So close! At that critical moment, the blurry human figure that had taken over Gu Ping's body jumped out of his body. It was not hit by Yi Chen's sword attack, since that sword attack contained an intense slaughter sword intent. If one was hit directly, even if they were not badly wounded, they would at least be slightly wounded. Sacrifice explosion. The rest of the Gu family warriors surrounded Yi Chen. Their bodies suddenly shone with an eye-piercing light as they started to explode. The explosion chi flow stacked together, which was enough to wound or even kill most of the master-level Sea of Souls realm warriors. Defense was Yi Chen's weakness, and an unprecedented sense of danger flashed through his mind. He performed his rarely used green lotus sword art. The sword light turned into a green lotus, covering him within while he himself increased the thickness of his protective Jin Yuan layer, trying to block out the power of the explosion. Boom! The bottomless crack almost collapsed, and a huge crack appeared on the huge mountain above it, as if it had been cut in half by a huge axe. Ha! I hope you don't die. It would be such a shame if you did. Self-sacrificing explosion was not an ultimate secret art of the Gu family, but a secret art of the owner of the demonic will. His demonic will allowed him to take over other people's bodies and use them to perform self-sacrificing explosion. Naturally, it would be successful, and it would not harm his own body. After all, this explosion did not have a mental attack, it was purely a Jin Yuan explosion. After the light faded away, Yi Chen was bleeding from all 7 of his orifices as he stood up with his sword. Huh. He is not dead yet. But, even if he is not dead yet, his body has been badly wounded, and his soul must be in a weakened state. It would be the perfect time for me to take over his body. Countless blurry human figures started to move, rushing toward Yi Chen. Yi Chen activated his slaughter sword intent and destruction sword intent, bouncing away the attacks from the blurry human figures. However, the sudden weakening of his soul had caused his sword intent to lose its endurance. Performing the undying body would consume a huge amount of Yuan Qi, which he would have to rely on pellets to replenish. But, there was no time for that right then. His body had been badly wounded, and his soul, which was closely connected to his body, was also extremely weak. Right now, Yi Chen was at his weakest. Right then, the strongest blurry human figure jumped out of Gu Ping's body and jumped toward Yi Chen. Without much of a hindrance, the blurry human figure entered Yi Chen's body. Right at the moment of successfully taking over his body, an extremely powerful mental light suddenly shone out of Yi Chen's body. An old man's shadow appeared out of nowhere, and with a closer look, it was indeed the leader of the Dragon God Heaven Palace, the Dragon King. The Dragon King's shadow yelled, and an invisible mental power attack spread out. All of the blurry human figures disappeared one after another. What? Rank 7 mental power. An unbelievable voice came from deep under the ground. Chapter 576. The higher the level of the martial spirit, the harder it would be to improve. Correspondingly, the increase in power would be even bigger. Although the rank 5 martial spirit and rank 6 martial spirit seemed to be only one rank apart, the power of the will would be a couple of times more powerful. And, the gap between rank 6 and rank 7 would be even bigger than the gap between rank 5 and rank 6. If the rank 5 martial spirit was the king-level martial spirit, then the rank 7 martial spirit would be the emperor-level martial spirit. Any warrior with the emperor-level martial spirit could kill a master-level Sea of Souls realm warrior with just one look. It was the gap that could not be crossed. Although the existence deep underground had a peak demonic soul of the 7th order, the demonic will he split out was only at the 5th order, and the main demonic will was only at the 6th order. How could they withstand the attack of a 7th order will? So, with this shout, all the ordinary demonic wills and the main demonic will present died. As he spoke, the being in the underground groaned. Losing one demonic will would not be a big deal, but losing hundreds of demonic wills and a main one would be a huge problem. The loss of the demonic will would not have much of a side effect on his demonic soul, because the side effect would be reflected directly on his soul. But, because of this shout, his soul, which had just recovered to its peak condition, had suddenly been badly damaged. Without the help of treasures, he might not be able to recover even after dozens of years. Damn it! How did I not think of it? A king warrior with a rank 6 martial spirit could leave a trace of will in someone's soul ocean. It would not appear normally, and would only appear in a life and death situation. I was too careless. After mumbling for a while, the being in the underground started to get serious. You have hurt my soul. How could I let you leave in one piece? Even if I have to hurt my soul even more, I will still take over your body. Who? A shrill wind howled, and dozens of blurry figures emerged from the depths of the ground. The ones in the front were obviously the two main demonic wills. Because the lake was not far from the depths of the ground, the distance between the two sides was rapidly shrinking. With the protection of the Dragon King's will power, Yichen finally had the chance to swallow a Yuan Qi replenishing pellet. With the abundant Yuan Qi surging inside his body, Yichen performed his undying body art immediately. As he did so, his wounded body started to heal at a visible speed. Within a blink of an eye, all the wounds on his body had disappeared completely, and his soul, which had a subtle connection with his body, started to get rid of the weakness as well. Such a powerful self-destructing explosion. Letting out a deep breath, Yichen was still a little scared. All of them were Sea of Soul realm experts. Their Jin Yuan was extremely powerful, and had already formed a Jin Yuan Si in their Dantian. At close range, it was enough to injure Sea of Soul realm masters. Exploding together, no Sea of Soul realm master would be able to survive. Fortunately, Yichen was 100 meters away from them, so he only felt the power of the aftershock, which was equivalent to a Sea of Soul realm expert exploding at close range. Yichen, this will of mine can only last for 15 minutes. Then, it would be more or less disappeared. Dragon Spirit of the Yichen. Yichen, this will of mine can last for another 15 minutes. Yichen asked, Senior Dragon King, are you talking to me? Yi. With him. More. The dragon. Seeing that the other party didn't reply, Yichen understood that this will didn't have much connection with Dragon King anymore. The reason it could speak was because it had been set up to remind him. Let's find the shadowless grass first. With a flicker of his body, Yichen flew deeper. He needed to find the shadowless grass within 15 minutes. If he couldn't find it in 15 minutes, he would have to give up and leave the underground crack immediately. Compared to his life, a stalk of shadowless grass was worthless. Many blurry figures bumped into Yichen, but they did not attack. They were very afraid of the Dragon King's apparition and did not want to fight a rock with an egg. They were waiting for the Dragon King's apparition to dissipate. After all, there was a limit to the amount of a will and it could not exist forever. Not here. Not here either. Where is the shadowless grass? Yi Chen was slightly anxious. Half of the 15 minutes had already passed. If he still couldn't find it, he could only give up. The yin qi in other places is very heavy, but why is the yin qi here so faint? It seems neutral and peaceful. Coming to a narrow cave, Yi Chen sensed something different. Shadowless grass grows in an environment with extremely heavy yin qi. The energy it contains is neutral and peaceful, which makes it hard to sense. Used to concoct medicine, it can make the medicine invisible, colorless, and tasteless. It is one of the top-ranked spirit grasses, priceless. Information about the shadowless grass flashed through Yi Chen's mind. There might be some shadowless grass here. Letting out a mouthful of impure qi, Yi Chen pushed his soul power and started to search inch by inch, not letting go of any clues. After a long time, Yi Chen found that the yin qi in the left corner of the cave was the faintest. No, there was not even a trace of yin qi there. With that corner as the center, the neutral and peaceful qi spread out in a circular shape, and the yin qi was getting weaker and weaker. In other words, the source of the yin qi was that corner. Shoo! Flying over, Yi Chen bent down and started searching. Swoosh! Out of nowhere, Yi Chen's palm touched a couple of leaves. The leaves shook and made a light sound, but there was nothing in his sight. Shadowless grass. His eyes brightened. Yi Chen's right hand was like a blade, stabbing it down and then pulling it up. All of a sudden, a meter of land was dug out. I can leave now. Although he could not see the shadowless grass, Yi Chen was sure that it was in his hand. Without any other thoughts, Yi Chen put the shadowless grass together with the soil into his storage ring, then turned around and went back the way he came. His speed had been pushed to his limit, making him look like a weightless cloud of smoke. When he got back to the lake, Yi Chen did not slow down at all, continuing to fly. You want to leave? The being in the deep underground could tell that something was wrong with the demonic will. With a cold snort, all of the demonic will went through the rock wall and blocked in front of Yi Chen. Demonic will drill. Four blurry human figures merged together, turning into a shapeless drill, drilling toward Yi Chen, who was protected by the Dragon King's shadow. Ho! The Dragon King's shadow yelled as he reached out his hand to block out the demonic will drill. Let's see how many of them you can block out. More demonic will drills shot over, attacking toward Yi Chen from all directions. Besides, the Dragon King's phantom had let out a loud yell at the very beginning, which had destroyed hundreds of demonic wills and one main demonic will. The rest of it had been focused on defense. Plus, the Dragon King had told Yi Chen before that this will power that had been poured into his Sea of Soul could only be used for defense, and did not have any attacking power. As for why it had attacking power at the very beginning, Yi Chen had no idea. He guessed that it had something to do with the Dragon King's willpower when it tried to take over his body, which had provoked the Dragon King's willpower. With both of his hands blocking out two of the demonic will drills, the rest of them all landed on the Dragon King's shadow, bringing up circles of ripples. The Dragon King's shadow dimmed a bit, but it did not let the demonic will drills break through the defense. Damn it, if I don't succeed this time, I will suffer a huge loss. The existence deep underground made up his mind and immediately fused the 10 blurry human figures together, forming an extremely sharp and huge demonic will drill. The demonic will drill spun in the air, letting out a grumbling sound as it pierced into the Dragon King's shadow's forehead. Caw! Cracks appeared on the Dragon King's shadow. After all, it was just a rank 7 will, and its endurance was not endless. Since the first attack did not work, the remaining demonic will all fuse together, forming another huge demonic will drill that struck the Dragon King's shadow. The Dragon King's shadow was covered in cracks, like an invisible crystal that was about to shatter at any moment. Not good. Yi Chen squinted his eyes as he felt a huge sense of danger. Swish! Waves of sword light appeared around his body as Yi Chen gave up on going back. Instead, he rushed toward the top of the crack. It was only a few dozen miles away from the surface. Even if he were to pass through the rocks, he would only need a few dozen breaths to get out. Like a sword light, Yi Chen shuttled through the tightly packed rocks. When he encountered a metal mine, he would also pass through it, igniting a large number of sparks. Want to run? All of the normal demonic will disappeared, and the last two main demonic wills ignored the rocks and continued to travel at an extreme speed. Their speed was dozens of times faster than Yi Chen's, appearing right in front of Yi Chen in the blink of an eye. Break for me. One of the main demonic will drill turned into a demonic will drill and shattered the Dragon King's shadow, causing it to shrink into Yi Chen's Sea of Soul. Piss off! After the Dragon King's shadow was shattered, Yi Chen took out his Thunder Disaster Sword and stabbed out. The sword body contained a powerful slaughter and destruction sword intent. Although the great sword could not increase the sword intent's power, with the sword in his hand, Yi Chen could feel that the sword intent had become more condensed and sharp. Swoosh! Piercing through the main demonic will, Yi Chen followed. It's useless. The last demonic will was extremely powerful, reaching the peak of rank 6. Although Yi Chen's slaughter and destruction sword intents could suppress it, with such a huge difference in rank, the effect was almost negligible. This demonic will followed Yi Chen like a shadow, trying to invade his body. His Sea of Soul brought up huge waves as Yi Chen once again felt the danger of being taken over. The process was extremely horrifying. Once halfway through, he would feel like his limbs were no longer under his control, and he would only be able to watch it happen. Once he was taken over, he would no longer be himself. At least, his soul would be invaded, becoming someone else's, and his memories would be taken as well. He could not imagine why the shadowless demons in the underground crack were so different from the ones in the legends. Even the most ordinary ones were extremely powerful, and the most powerful ones were 10 times more powerful. Huh. With this incarnation, I can slowly recover my previous losses. Moreover, this incarnation might be able to reach the life and death realm in the future, becoming the 1 in 10,000 Sword King. With the Sword King incarnation and the special nature of my body, who in this world could be my opponent? The being in the deep underground was very happy. The main demonic will had almost completely merged with Yi Chen's body, and its powerful willpower started to erase Yi Chen's consciousness and the soul mark that he was born with. Right then, the slaughter sword spirit in Yi Chen's Sea of Soul started to vibrate crazily, and so did the second sword spirit. They seemed to have sensed an unprecedented danger. Meanwhile, the destruction element in the deep of the Sea of Soul rushed up and merged with the second sword spirit. Woo! The second sword spirit's color was changing, turning into a black color with an extreme destruction chi. The black color dyed the tip of the sword, and a complete destruction sword intent burst out, merging with the slaughter sword intent and attacking toward the intruder. What? No! A scream came from the deep underground. Chapter 577. The slaughter sword intent and the destruction sword intent had the advantage of being the host, and they had a suppressive effect. On the other hand, the main demonic will was an outsider, so it was strongly rejected by the soul ocean. Under such circumstances, the main demonic will had been pushed out of the soul ocean by the two sword intents. However, it was not over yet, because the main demonic will was just a strand of it, and it would not be able to continue. On the other hand, the slaughter sword intent and the destruction sword intent were continuously growing, and they were always at their peak condition. It had not only pushed the main demonic will out of the soul ocean, but also destroyed a part of it. It was like a vicious cycle. The weaker the main demonic will was, the faster the slaughter sword intent and the destruction sword intent would destroy it. After 2 to 3 blinks of an eye, the main demonic will had been destroyed by the two sword intents together before it could leave Yi Chen's body. Damn it, even you are helping that brat. You didn't come earlier or later, but you just had to let him make a breakthrough at this moment. The continuous failures and severe injuries had made the existence in the underground world blame the heaven and earth. He even started to curse the heaven. He had been sealed in the underground world for hundreds of years, and finally, the seal had been loosened, allowing him to send out some demonic will. However, he had never thought that after only 1 year, he would be so unfortunate and his soul would be continuously damaged, which had even damaged his foundation. It had taken him hundreds of years to recover his soul to its peak condition. Of course, the thing that had driven him crazy the most was that Yi Chen was one of a kind. With this clone, even if his real body was sealed in the underground world for the rest of his life, he would still be able to become an extremely powerful sword king with this clone. He would be able to walk to the peak with another identity. Seeing that he was about to succeed, the tables had turned instantly, which was a huge blow that normal people could not understand. I hate that Star Emperor who sealed me underground, and I hate that Battle King who injured my soul with his immortal sword intent, causing my soul to only recover to its peak state today. I hate that brat even more, because he made my hundreds of years of hard work go up in smoke. Are these three my nemesis? Even if they are, one day, I will break free and make you my incarnation. The demonic thought that he had split out was gone. He had already given up the thought of possession. After all, at this moment, his soul had been severely injured. Even if he continued to split out the demonic thought, it would not be as powerful as before. Moreover, the two sword spirits of Yi Chen were able to restrain the demonic thought. The demonic thought was like throwing a meat bun at a dog. How could he do such a stupid thing? After cursing all the people he hated in his heart, he finally calmed down and seemed to fall into a deep sleep. Bang! The ground cracked open, and Yi Chen rushed out. That was close. Standing under the sunlight, Yi Chen felt a lot safer. He could vaguely feel that this place was not as simple as an underground crack. There must be some kind of shocking secret, especially the fact that the shadowless demons had merged together and formed a drill to attack. It was not something that the shadowless demon could do, since it was only born with the evil intent of possession. However, just like his soul talent, it needed enough pressure to grow fast. Before, when he was being chased by the powerful warriors of the AO family, he had trained half of his undying body in a short time. This time, when he was facing the shadowless demon's forceful possession, he once again activated his horrifying potential, merging his second sword spirit with the destruction element and forming the destruction sword spirit. The destruction sword spirit's rank was the same as the slaughter sword spirit, also at the peak of rank 4. However, judging on power, it was more powerful than the slaughter sword spirit. The slaughter sword spirit could perform the peak of rank 5 power, and although the destruction sword spirit would not reach rank 6, it was still very close to it. Fortune and misfortune go hand in hand. I knew it. Running into the shadowless demon, which was even more horrifying than the rumors, was a disaster, while the destruction sword spirit was a blessing. It was hard to tell if it was a blessing or a curse, but it could only be said that fortune and misfortune went hand in hand. This is not a good place to stay. I need to leave first. Not in a hurry to check out the changes in his soul ocean, Yi Chen's body flashed, turning into a blue light and flying into the sky. Soon, he disappeared without a trace. After about 15 minutes, the space above the crack suddenly shattered like a mirror. At the same time, a horrifying destructive chi spread out along with the broken space, crushing many mountains and creating countless cracks on the ground. Shoo! A figure walked out of the surreal space. Behind him, the space was slowly healing up. This person was around 60 years of age and wore a bright yellow robe. His thin face was angular like ancient jade, and it was full of texture. His long gray hair danced without any wind, and it caused the space around it to distort. His gaze pierced through the surface and into the depths of the earth. Ping Er's body. The elder in yellow robes saw Gu Ping's body, his eyes filled with killing intent. Who is it? Who killed Ping Er? The dim jade tag in the elder's hand was crushed by him, turning into nothingness. The Gu family of the East Royal City was a rank 5 family. They had once had a titled king warrior, the East King. Even in this day and age, the Gu family was no longer as powerful as before, but no one dared to underestimate them. Because in this generation, there were 2 king warriors in the Gu family. One was the East King, and the other was the Destruction King. The East King had inherited the legacy of the East King, so he was called the East King. His power was immeasurable, while the Destruction King had found another way to learn the rare Destruction Profound. The elder in yellow robes was indeed one of the two king warriors of the Gu family, the Destruction King. As a fifth-rank family that had existed for more than 10,000 years, the Gu family's foundation was very deep. They had a life hall, and inside the life hall, there were many life jade plates. These life jade plates didn't have any great use, and they were only tools to imprint the life imprints of important people in the family. If an important person died, the life imprint in the life jade plate would also disappear, and the light would dim, telling the Gu family that the person had died. Gu Ping was so young, but he already had the master-level power. Without a doubt, he was one of the few important people in the Gu family, and the person that the Gu family would spend all of their resources to train. Therefore, as soon as he died and the jade tag dimmed down, the whole Gu family was in an uproar, which alerted the Destruction King. Once the Destruction King got the news, he used the other life jade tag that Gu Ping carried with him to find the exact location. Then, he traveled 5 million miles and arrived at the scene as soon as he could. But, it was obvious that the killer was already far away, leaving only Gu Ping's dead body behind. Trying his best to control his anger, the Destruction King closed both of his eyes. The soul power in between his eyebrows exploded, spreading out at an unimaginable speed. 1,000 miles, 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles, 15,000 miles. After reaching 15,000 miles, the Destruction King saw that there were no suspicious people around, so a bright white light suddenly shone in between his eyebrows. As the white light shone, his soul power detection range increased by a couple of times, reaching 100,000 miles. When the soul power scanned through a young man in blue, the Destruction King did not think too much about it, because he was only at peak level early Sea of Souls realm. Even if he could fight beyond his realm, it would still be impossible for him to kill Gu Ping, who had the master-level power. If he were to say that the young man in blue was suspicious, then there would be a lot of other suspicious people within 100,000 miles. He had found at least dozens of people who were above mid-Sea of Souls realm, and some of them were young martial geniuses. There were even one or two young martial geniuses that even the Destruction King did not want to mess with, since any young martial genius would have a very powerful background in the Sky Martial region. No, not even one. The Destruction King pulled back his soul power, his face looking very gloomy. Boom! Taking a deep breath, the Destruction King reached out his right hand and patted on the ground. All of a sudden, the ground started to shake and a huge crack appeared. The ground underneath the crack started to rise up slowly, eventually reaching the height of the ground. On the ground that had risen up, the dead bodies of Gu Ping and the rest of the Gu family appeared in front of the Destruction King's eyes. However, their faces were hard to recognize, because their heads and limbs were all gone. It seemed like they had been through a huge explosion before they died, and only their torsos, which were protected by the top-ranked defensive items, were still intact. However, the insides were also a pile of rotten meat. In other words, if it were not for the fact that the Destruction King had recognized Gu Ping's top-ranked defensive item and his life jade tag, he would not have been able to tell that it was Gu Ping down there. This chi. The moment the corpse rose up, the Destruction King frowned as he sensed a chilling aura. This chilling aura was extremely unusual, as if it was left behind by a demonic being that practiced demonic arts. It made him feel very uncomfortable, and he could sense a faint threat from it. No wonder Ping had died here. It turns out that there was a king warrior of the beast race here. He must have been wounded, or sealed. Crack! His body flashed like lightning, and the Destruction King suddenly dropped down. His protective Jin Yuan layer was like cutting through tofu, easily penetrating through the ground and reaching the deepest part of the ground. With only a shake of his body, the Destruction King arrived at the place where Gu Ping had died. Of course, this place had already been lifted up by him, so it was nothing but ruins. After sensing for a while, the Destruction King flew toward the deepest part of the ground. His speed was so fast that it was no different from teleportation. Just as the Destruction King got close to the crack, the being in the deepest part of the ground woke up. He was in a deep sleep before, so he did not sense the Destruction King's approach. He only noticed it when the latter flew toward his hiding place. Life and Death Realm Warrior. Not good. I guess I cannot stay here anymore. Damn it. I have to waste my power again. Before I leave, I will teach him a lesson. Through the crack of the seal, I can perform a full-power mental attack at a close distance. The being in the deepest part of the ground did not seem to be that scared of the Destruction King. Going through the crack, the Destruction King arrived at the darkest place. The air there was extremely sticky, and it was filled with an invisible power field. Even the spreading of soul power seemed to be slowed down and twisted. Piss off! In the deepest part of the darkness, a soft voice was heard from somewhere. At the same time, a wave of horrifying demonic intent shot out, attacking toward the Destruction King. Swoosh! That willpower already had the power to affect reality, shattering the rock wall behind the Destruction King into pieces instantly. Although the Destruction King had come with a lot of power, he was now in a very bad shape. Blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth. That demonic intent was way too horrifying. It was at least rank 7, no, it should be at the peak of rank 7. Although he had used his martial intent to defend against it, he was still wounded quite badly. Little brat, I will let you go this time. But the next time I see you, I will make you beg for death. That soft voice was floating in the air. It was only for a second before disappearing completely. With a fire burning in his heart, the Destruction King started to panic. He originally thought that a sealed or wounded Beast King would not be a threat to him. But, just now, the latter had only passed through some kind of barrier and wounded him with his willpower. If he were to break free from the seal, even 10 of him would not be his opponent. There are a lot of sealed places in the Sky Martial region, and some of them are demons and monsters that cannot be killed. They can only be sealed. Pinger's death cannot be blamed on anyone. Who told him to come to a sealed place? The Destruction King, who originally wanted to find the culprit, immediately gave up. Dying in the hands of an old monster like this was his only option. Chapter 578. After flying 40 to 50,000 li in one breath, Yichen finally stopped. This place was a normal mountain in the Sky Martial region. There was no one around. Scanning with his soul power, Yichen could only sense hunters coming into the mountain to hunt occasionally. The strongest among them was only at the condensing reality realm, while the weakest was at the mortal realm. They were all normal people. In the past half a year, I have not had the time to train in peace. My profound has been improving slowly. Oh well, I will train here for a while and try to increase my power. Drawing an arc in the sky, Yichen dove into the mountain. The mountain was indeed not that big, but it was only for the Sky Martial region. In the world where Yichen came from, it was already a huge mountain range, covering 700 to 800 miles. Circling in the air for a couple of times, Yichen chose a beautiful scenic spot with mountains and rivers, with a waterfall and a flying spring as his training spot for the next period of time. Swoosh! Before his body landed on the ground, a ferocious-looking fish flew out of the lake. It was dozens of meters long, its body covered in sharp spikes. Its tail was like a scorpion's, with a horrifying hook. Its mouth was full of sharp teeth that looked like huge iron nails. On its back, there were 2 pairs of dorsal fins, which seemed to have mutated before. They were wide and long, allowing it to fly in the sky without relying on its beast power. Its speed was extremely fast, not any slower than the birds in the sky. The strange fish's power was at rank 9, which was equivalent to a human Sea of Souls realm warrior. Adding on the mutation, its power was even more powerful than other beasts at the same level, and its temper was even worse. Yichen's arrival had provoked it, so it flew out of the water while showing its teeth. Yichen smiled lightly as he patted the beast tag on his waist with his right hand. Shoo! The dream-eating wolf with red fur and a lot of demonic eyes on its forehead flew out. The dream-eating wolf had been trapped in there for too long. The moment its feet touched the ground, it let out a shrill wolf howl. The strange fish was shocked. After all, the dream-eating wolf was 1 level higher than it, reaching level 10. Its demonic power was obviously stronger than its own. However, the strange fish clearly had a probing system that could distinguish strength. When it discovered that the dream-eating wolf was only of a higher level and might not necessarily be stronger than it let out a terrifying cry and flapped its wing-like dorsal fin. Its huge body suddenly pounced on the dream-eating wolf. When the dream-eating wolf saw that a demonic beast dared to provoke it, the numerous eyes on its forehead opened, and a dim light flickered endlessly, enveloping the strange fish. The strange fish's movements became sluggish, as if it had fallen into a dream, its eyes lifeless. Creak. This weird fish was indeed a mutated beast, being able to escape from the dream-eating wolf's dream. Of course, it was also because the dream-eating wolf's soul had been wounded and had not recovered yet. Otherwise, even a master-level Sea of Souls realm warrior would have to be extra careful. With a scream, the weird fish did not dare to stay any longer. It turned around and dove back into the lake, disappearing without a trace. You just stay around here. Don't go too far. Without paying too much attention to the strange fish, Yi-Chen ordered the dream-eating wolf. The dream-eating wolf nodded, and with a shoo, it flew into the deep mountains far away. Shaking his head, Yi-Chen focused his attention on the surroundings again. This place was extremely vast, and there were many green mountains behind it. There were a lot of small waterfalls pouring down from the top of the mountains. In between some of the mountain rocks, the natural spring water leaked out from the inside of the mountains. Some of the places were sunken, forming a moderate-sized deep pool. In front of the mountains was a clear lake that seemed to be endless. The water was sparkling, and there were all kinds of fish jumping out of the water from time to time, their scales reflecting the sunlight with 7 different colors. The scenery is good, but it will not last forever. Yi-Chen did not lose his fighting spirit because of the beautiful scenery in front of him. On the contrary, the better the scenery was, the more it would stimulate his fighting spirit. Because he knew that beautiful things would disappear one day, and only his power would be with him forever. Sitting on a rock under the waterfall, Yi-Chen closed his eyes and started to observe the changes in his soul sea. The soul sea was surging, and the silver light shone out. Above the soul sea, 3 swords were floating. The first sword was the Slaughter Sword Spirit, the second was the Destruction Sword Spirit, and the third was still in its embryonic form, which was not even 1/10 of the power of the previous 2 sword spirits. Before, the second sword spirit had not merged with the destruction element, but it had already resonated with the Slaughter Sword Spirit. Right now, the Destruction Sword Spirit had been formed, and the resonance between the 2 sword spirits had increased by 10 times. The Slaughter Sword intent and the Destruction Sword intent interweaved together, vibrating each other. The Destruction Sword intent carries the destruction will, so its element is higher than the Slaughter Sword intent. However, the Slaughter Sword intent should have been separated from the Destruction Sword intent. Although it is not as powerful as the Destruction Sword intent, it is not repelled by the Destruction Sword intent. The Destruction Sword Spirit is devouring the Slaughter Chi. Yi-Chen saw a shocking scene. The Black Destruction Sword Spirit was extremely powerful, and the Destruction Sword intent spread out, absorbing the Slaughter Chi from the Slaughter Sword Spirit in a very small way. However, the Slaughter Sword Spirit seemed to be very gentle, and did not resist at all. The slaughter comes from destruction, and the destruction contains the slaughter. The 2 are one. I wonder how much the Devouring Sword Spirit will grow one day after it devours the Slaughter Sword Spirit. Letting out a deep breath, Yi-Chen withdrew his attention from his soul sea. Once the Destruction Sword Spirit is formed, only the Immortal Sword Spirit is still far away. But before that, I need to train the 3rd embryonic Sword Spirit into a real Sword Spirit. Then, I can merge it with the Immortal element and form the Immortal Sword Spirit that is on par with the Destruction Sword Spirit. Opening his eyes, Yi-Chen raised his head and looked into the sky. Do not run around in this place. I will go to the extreme void sky to train the Thunder Profound. Through the soul mark, Yi-Chen talked to the dream-eating wolf. He was not afraid of the dream-eating wolf, since the 2 of them were connected by soul. So, he would be able to sense anything that happened to the latter. Leaving it down there was only to let it take a breather, so that it would not get bored. Shoo! Bending his knees, Yi Chen shot up into the sky. That sharp sword chi broke through the sky, flashing once before disappearing. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. A black shadow stood near the ravaged underground fissure. It was the evil demon master. I am late. The evil demon master clenched his fists, his expression dark. Ever since he had become a master-level Sea of Souls realm warrior, he had never been this frustrated before. If it were another master-level Sea of Souls realm warrior, then it would be fine. But, it just so happened that it was an astral-reaching realm warrior with a master-level sword intent and a low cultivation base. I have to get the Undying Body secret art. According to the rumors, only by training the broken limb regrowth level would I have the highest chance of reaching the life and death realm. This is a way to reach the life and death realm. Grinding his teeth, the evil demon master flashed his body and left the place. Extreme void sky. Crack. Eye-piercing bolts of lightning struck everywhere, stirring up space ripples in the air. Wherever the thunderbolts reached, they were like sharp axes, splitting floating mountains into halves, and burning towering trees that were formed from wood power into black ashes, setting them ablaze. Boom! A thick lightning attacked toward Yi Chen. It contained an extremely profound thunder profound, making its speed dozens of times faster than normal. Sky Thunder Cut. Holding the long sword in his hand, Yi Chen threw out a sword attack. Crack! The two lightning clashed together, bringing up thousands of thunder fires. No, the thunder profound in this place is too weak. I can't get much enlightenment. With my power right now, it should be no problem for me to reach the highest place in the extreme void sky. With that thought in mind, Yi Chen braved the thunderstorm and flew toward the higher place. Boom! 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 This place was an ocean of thunder, and the thunder yuan qi in the surreal space had already reached a sticky level. Yi Chen had only gotten close to the edge, but his protective Jin Yuan was already showing signs of breaking down. As more and more thunder struck down, Yi Chen found it hard to even move around. Sky Thunder Cut. Reverse Sky Thunder Cut. With the Thunder Disaster Sword in his right hand and the Gold Sword in his left, Yi Chen fought against the incoming thunder. Swoosh! Right then, a thunder human figure flew over. It is the Thunder Spirit. Yi Chen's expression changed. Humans had intellect, and so did plants after a long time. Even metals and stones would have their own intellect. Places with thick thunder yuan qi would naturally give birth to thunder spirits. Thunder spirits were condensed from thunder yuan qi. The higher their intellect was, the stronger they would be. Moreover, they were born with the profound meaning of thunder, and their fighting power was unparalleled. The most terrifying thing was that thunder spirits were almost immortal in places with thick thunder yuan qi. Even if their bodies were destroyed, they could reform again in a second. Crackle! The thunder spirit waved its hand, and an endless thunderstorm attacked toward Yi Chen. Those shining thunder and lightning were even sharper than blades, blinding people's eyes. This thunder spirit was very powerful, even more powerful than Yi Chen. Within the time it took to make a pot of tea, Yi Chen had been struck dozens of times. If it were not for his immortal body, which allowed him to instantly recover, Yi Chen might have already fallen here, becoming a ghost under the thunder spirit's hand. Boom! His body had just recovered when a huge thunder suddenly appeared in the surreal space, striking down along the top of Yi Chen's head. As if he had been electrocuted, Yi Chen's body suddenly became transparent, looking like a huge light bulb. His meridians and organs could be seen clearly. Thunder, thunder profound. I see. Being struck by the thunder, Yi Chen was severely wounded. If it were not for the fact that his soul power was powerful enough, this thunder strike would have annihilated his soul, and he would have died without a doubt. No matter how powerful his undying body was, it would still be useless. However, after being struck by such a powerful thunder strike, Yi Chen's understanding of the thunder profound instantly increased. He felt as if time had stopped, and the evolution of the thunder and lightning replayed in his mind. Sky Thunder Cut, completed. Suddenly opening his eyes, an electric arc flashed once before disappearing. Yi Chen threw out a sword attack toward the thunder spirit. This sword attack did not have any signs of being artificial, and it looked no different from real thunder and lightning. However, the thunder profound contained within was much more powerful than before. Swoosh! This sword directly swallowed the thunder spirit's body, turning it into a part of the thunder and lightning, making the sword even more powerful. Chapter 579. However, the thunder spirit was a life formed by thunder after all, so the sword attacks that contained the thunder profound would not be able to do much damage to it. That sword attack of Yi Chen's had only limited it for a moment. In the next second, it jumped out of the thunder sword power and reformed its body, looking perfectly fine. It is indeed the thunder spirit. Its battling power is so powerful. But the Sky Thunder Cut is not my most powerful sword attack in terms of power. It is way weaker than the Gold Resonant Radiant sword attack. Only when combined with the Reverse Sky Thunder Cut would it be my most powerful attack. Plus, using the Thunder Profound against the Thunder Spirit would be a waste of power. Seeing that the Thunder Spirit was perfectly fine, Yi Chen was not surprised at all. He was only here to learn the Thunder Profound, not to risk his life against the Thunder Spirit. Crack! The Thunder Spirit waved out countless lightning bolts, attacking toward Yi Chen once again. This time, Yi Chen did not use his Sky Thunder Cut against the Thunder Spirit. He did not even use any sword attacks, since he knew that attacking this kind of life formed by Yuan Qi would be pointless. So what if he could shatter their bodies? They would be able to reform again. So, he would have to use his willpower against them. Kill! Locking onto the Thunder Spirit, Yi Chen's forehead swelled up as his slaughter sword intent shot out. Who? The Thunder Spirit's movement slowed down, and a thick thunder Yuan Qi could be seen leaking out of their bodies. Their bodies started to look a bit vague, as if they could shatter at any second. It is not easy for you to form a life form, so I will not kill you. Yi Chen's power was indeed not as powerful as the Thunder Spirit, but it did not mean that he could not kill it. The biggest weakness of the Thunder Spirit was its soul. Because it was a life formed by thunder, its soul was naturally weaker than any Sea of Souls realm warrior, and its willpower was also very weak. But, Yi Chen's slaughter sword intent had reached the peak of rank 5, so it could naturally destroy the soul of the Thunder Spirit easily. In other words, it would be easier for Yi Chen to kill a Thunder Spirit that was more powerful than him than a Sea of Souls realm warrior that was weaker than him, since any Sea of Souls realm warrior would have their own martial willpower. After going through the martial willpower, Yi Chen's sword intent would not have that much of an attacking power. At least, it would not be able to destroy the soul of a Sea of Souls realm warrior that easily, unless the opponent's martial willpower was way weaker than his. Of course, this Thunder Spirit should not have been that long. If it were long enough, its soul would still be powerful. In fact, once the soul of a special kind of being became powerful, its power would be horrifying. There had been some extremely powerful special kind in the history. Shoo! Leaving the Thunder Spirit behind, Yi Chen shot down. Back in the mountains, Yi Chen scanned the area with his soul power and saw that the dream-eating wolf was devouring some kind of beast's organs and brain. It was a rather bloody scene. Shaking his head, Yi Chen knew that the dream-eating wolf was desperate to recover from its soul wound. Unfortunately, the thing that could heal soul wounds was extremely rare in this world, and people who had it would not put it up for auction. They would only keep it for themselves. Therefore, if one wanted to get it, they would have to look for it themselves. Would it be worth it to give it the 9-turn reverse spirit plant? Yi Chen frowned, wondering if he should do it or not. The power of the dream-eating wolf to create dreams is not something to be underestimated. At the critical moment, it could be very useful. I have already eaten the plant anyway, so if I take it again, the effect would not be that great. Who knows when I would have to wait to make pellets with it? I might as well use it now. With that thought in mind, Yi Chen made up his mind. Come back. Through the soul mark, Yi Chen called out to the dream-eating wolf. Awo! The dream-eating wolf roared into the sky and jumped into the air, flying towards Yi Chen. Soon, it arrived in front of Yi Chen, its huge head rubbing against Yi Chen's body. Stroking the hair on the dream-eating wolf's neck, Yi Chen took out the 9-turn reverse spirit plant from his storage ring, tore off a leaf and handed it to the dream-eating wolf. The dream-eating wolf sniffed the leaf, and found out that it contained a huge amount of soul power. It was very happy, and could not help but lift up its head to look at Yi Chen, as if asking if it was for it. Yi Chen nodded. Woo woo woo. After getting Yi Chen's answer, the dream-eating wolf let out a couple of happy growls. It opened its mouth to bite the leaf, chewed it a couple of times, and swallowed it. Whoo! As the dream-eating wolf swallowed the leaf, a faintly discernible soul vibration spread out, bringing with it an intense illusion that twisted reality. After a long while, the dream-eating wolf lifted up its head and looked at Yi Chen again. All for you. Yi Chen gave the rest of the 9-turn reverse spirit plant to the dream-eating wolf. The dream-eating wolf looked at Yi Chen with gratitude, then swallowed the plant. The dim light flickered, and in Yi Chen's eyes, the surroundings started to look like a dream. It seemed to be overlapping with the real world, and it was impossible to tell the real from the fake. It was not the dream-eating wolf's intention. When it was recovering from its soul injury, it could not control its own power, which caused a part of the dream power to leak out and erode the real world. The quality of this dream is even more powerful than before. Yi Chen was slightly surprised. In fact, Yi Chen had underestimated the effect of the 9-turn reverse spirit plant. The 9-turn reverse spirit plant could strengthen the soul, so naturally, it could heal the soul injury. It was difficult to strengthen the soul, but it was easier to heal the soul. So, these 6 leaves not only completely healed the dream-eating wolf's soul, but also improved it further. The stronger the soul, the stronger the ability to create the dream. Howl. The soul was completely healed, and it was a lot stronger. The dream-eating wolf could not help but roar at the sky. The many eyes on its forehead opened, and the dim light spread out in waves. Everywhere it went, there was no clear boundary between reality and dream. As long as one entered the range of the dim light, they would fall into the dream-eating wolf's dream, and their life and death would be out of their control. As the owner of the dream-eating wolf, Yi Chen knew that although the dim light covered him, it would not affect him too much. It seems like I have made the right move. With the dream-eating wolf's ability to create dreams, even master-level Sea of Souls realm warriors would fall into the dream if they were not prepared for it. Once the opponent falls into the dream, even if it is only for a second, I would be able to wound or even kill him. Yi Chen thought to himself. The dream-eating wolf's power was too powerful, and it would be of great help to him. As for the 9-turn reverse spirit plant, it did not matter anymore, since he did not know when he would be able to use it again. Rubbing the dream-eating wolf's fluffy fur, Yi Chen said, "In the future, when there is a life-and-death battle, you will not be able to stay out of it." Woo! Woo! The dream-eating wolf wagged its tail. It had been waiting for the battle for a long time, since it was its nature. It is so strange. The other beasts would be able to say a couple of simple sentences after reaching rank 9 or 10. Why can't you? Your soul is so much more powerful than theirs. Lowering its head, not being able to talk was a shame for the dream-eating wolf. It could not understand why it was so weak in this area. Huh. Brother, the dream-eating wolf is here. I have finally found it. In the distance, a group of human figures flew over. They were all at the Sea of Souls realm, and the one who was talking was a one-eyed man. In front of him was a middle-aged blade artist who had reached late Sea of Souls realm. Are you sure this is the dream-eating wolf? The middle-aged blade artist stared at the dream-eating wolf that was with Yi Chen. I was not sure before, but I saw it open all those eyes on its forehead, which made all the beasts stand there, waiting to be killed. The one-eyed man had seen the dream-eating wolf in the mountains a couple of days ago. He knew that he would not be able to take on the dream-eating wolf by himself, so he went back to call his brothers. After all, although the dream-eating wolf was good, he did not have the power to eat it. Plus, he did not have the beast tag. As long as you are sure. A greedy look flashed through the middle-aged blade artist's eyes. Yi Chen stroked the dream-eating wolf as he looked at the group of uninvited guests with cold eyes. You are the owner of the dream-eating wolf. Shoo! 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 The group of people stood in midair as the leading middle-aged blade artist said to Yi Chen. Yi Chen said lightly, indeed. Sell the dream-eating wolf to me, and I will spare your life. Sell it to you. Yi Chen smiled, I am afraid that you cannot afford it. I am the leader of the Black Wind Gang, and I am in charge of this area. How about this? I am willing to pay 100,000 top-rank spirit stones for your dream-eating wolf. The middle-aged blade artist was still a bit afraid of the dream-eating wolf. He would not fight if he could, but the price was too high, and he was not willing. 100,000 top-rank spirit stones was his bottom line. Do you think that 100,000 top-rank spirit stones can buy a dream-eating wolf? Yi Chen sneered. What, you are not willing? The middle-aged blade artist's voice was cold, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Kill them. Yi Chen did not care about the middle-aged blade artist, and signaled the dream-eating wolf to create a dream. Since these people knew about the dream-eating wolf, they could not be allowed to leave alive, in case something happened. Shoo! Hearing this, the dream-eating wolf suddenly jumped into the sky, as fast as lightning. Keep your distance. Don't let it get close. Obviously, these people all knew how horrifying the dream-eating wolf was, so they all kept their distance from the dream-eating wolf. Unfortunately, they had underestimated the range of the dream-eating wolf's dream. A wavy light spread out, and besides the fastest middle-aged blade artist, the others all fell into the dream, standing there blankly. Seeing this, the middle-aged blade artist gasped. He threw out a blade attack toward the dream-eating wolf, hoping that this blade attack would be able to break the dream-eating wolf out of the dream. Die! Yi Chen pointed out his finger in the air. That huge blue finger ignored the distance and pressed onto the protective Jin Yuan of the middle-aged blade artist. Pop! The middle-aged blade artist's body turned into a blood mist like a bubble, exploding into pieces. His storage ring and great items fell onto the ground. As for the others, there was no need for Yi Chen and the dream-eating wolf to do anything. Wounds appeared on their bodies all of a sudden, and the number of wounds grew more and more severe. Eventually, they all died in the dream, their corpses falling from the sky into the lake. Under the control of the dream-eating wolf, the line between the dream and reality was very blurry, unless one had a strong enough willpower. It seems like I have still underestimated your power. Yi Chen saw these people die on their own, so he could not help but sigh. He had seen a couple of movies called Nightmare Street in his previous world, and the power of the dream-eating wolf was quite similar to Freddy's. However, the dream-eating wolf's body could not enter the dream. Who? All of a sudden, Yi Chen's finger with the storage ring vibrated a little. Frowning, Yi Chen took out a jade tag. There were a couple of markings on it, and the one pointing to the northwest lit up. Gather? This jade tag was given to him by Yen Fengfeng, and it was used to gather people. Hai Wuya and the rest also had theirs. Chapter 580. Come in, it is time for us to go. Patting on the beast tag with his right hand, Yi Chen called back the dream-eating wolf before flying into the sky. The flying puppet flashed once and appeared right below Yi Chen, just right for Yi Chen to sit on. In the next second, the flying puppet flapped its wings, turning into a beam of light and flying toward the northwest. Yen Fengfeng would not call us here for no reason. It should be a group adventure, right? Once they reached the Sea of Souls realm, all of the martial geniuses would treasure their lives a lot, since it was not easy to train to this level. Even if they could not make any progress in the future, they would at least not be ignored. Therefore, the martial geniuses would form their own factions, using the power of numbers to reduce the danger to the minimum. Throughout the ages, what killed the martial geniuses the most was not life and death battles or assassinations, but adventures, since no one knew what kind of dangers were lurking in the forbidden places. The unknown was always scary, because no one could predict what would be waiting for them in the next second. Coincidentally, my power has increased a lot recently, and the dream-eating wolf's ability to create dreams has improved as well. Maybe I can find some materials to make the antidote for the shadowless poison. Yi Chen was quite interested in this adventure. In the past, he could handle it all by himself, and there would be no danger at all. However, something that could catch Yan Fengfeng's attention was obviously not a normal adventure. After all, he could already guess a thing or two about her power. Shoo! The flying puppet's speed was getting faster and faster. After dozens of blinks, it had reached its highest speed. Time passed by quickly, and the black and white continued to change. It was a tall mountain, and under the mountain, the river was endless. On top of the mountain, two human figures stood there. The leading one was indeed the head disciple of the mysterious martial school, Yan Fengfeng, who was wearing blue robes. Right next to her was Ling Tianhao. Head disciple, is the savage ruin ancient place really that dangerous? Ling Tianhao had only reached the Sea of Souls realm not long ago, so there were some places that he was not qualified to go. Yan Fengfeng said, judging on the chance of dying, the savage ancient place is indeed not as dangerous as some of the forbidden places. It is because the place is huge enough, and it is impossible for there to be danger everywhere. But, we should not let our guard down either. There are some unknown dangerous places that even life and death realm warriors would have to be careful about. Although I have a broken map, I am not sure if I can get in and out safely. Ling Tianhao nodded. He had only heard about the savage ruin ancient place before, but had never been there before. Naturally, he did not know the details. He lifted up his head and looked into the distance. The Sky Ocean Martial School is not far from here. Hai Wuya should be here soon. I wonder when Yi Chen will be here. If he has already returned to the South Rudra region, then we would have to wait for a long time. Yan Fengfeng said, the savage ruin ancient place is full of savage evil qi, which will affect the Jin Yuan circulation and mental state. This month is the weakest month of the year. 3 days. If we do not get there in 3 days, we will leave. It had already been 10 days since she had notified Hai Wuya and Yi Chen. Adding on 3 days, it would be almost half a month. If Yi Chen was not too far away, he would have enough time to get there. The sun was burning hot in the sky, twisting the air under the sunlight. The rocks in the mountains were boiling hot. In the distance, 2 black dots were getting bigger and bigger. Sorry to keep you waiting. Hai Wuya's bald head shone brightly under the sunlight, looking very eye-catching. Yan Fengfeng laughed, you are quite fast. Shoo! Shoo! It was a young lady who came with Hai Wuya, looking very pretty. The two flashed their bodies and landed on the top of the mountain. Hai Wuya touched his bald head and said, I came as soon as I got the message. This is my sister disciple, Guan Qin. As for the other disciples, the master would not let them go. Yan Fengfeng chuckled, which master would be willing to let all of their top disciples go into danger? They would have to leave some of them in the school. There were 4 top Sea of Souls realm disciples in the mysterious martial school, but Yan Fengfeng had only brought Ling Tianhao. You are right. We should not put all of our eggs in one basket. Hai Wuya picked up the water bottle and took a sip before asking, where is Yi Chen? Did you inform him? Yes, but I don't know if he would make it in time. Yan Fengfeng took Yi Chen quite seriously, since Yi Chen was not weak at all. In fact, he was very powerful, close to these famous young martial geniuses. He was even more powerful than Ling Tianhao. We should inform him. The savage ruin ancient place is very dangerous. One more person would mean more confidence. Plus, he was able to stand out from the southern regions, so he must have a lot of powerful attacks. Head disciple, is he really that powerful? The pretty Guan Qin blinked her eyes, looking very innocent. Hai Wuya said, powerful, of course. If he was not powerful, how could he be ranked 3rd? Once they got back, Hai Wuya told his master everything about Yi Chen. Right now, all of the disciples basically knew about Yi Chen's name, so they were very curious about him. Before they knew it, it was already noon of the 3rd day. After today, we will leave. Why is Yi Chen not here yet? Ling Tianhao was a bit worried. Maybe he is too far away. Hai Wuya frowned. No hurry. Although we will leave tomorrow, my flying ship can only maintain 8 times the speed of sound. If he flies at full speed, he will still be able to catch up. It was Yan Fengfeng who said that. The flying ship she was talking about was a puppet ship filled with top-rank spirit stones. Its top speed could reach 8 times the speed of sound. After all, this trip to the Savage Ruin ancient place was full of danger, so there was no need to use Xinyuan to travel at full speed. You are right. The few of them nodded. It was nighttime, and the sky was full of stars. Shoo! A sky-piercing sound was heard from afar as a massive weird bird flew over. By the time the sound was heard, the bird was already close to the peak of the mountain. Yi Chen, you are finally here. We thought you would not be able to make it in time. Everyone was sitting on the peak of the mountain, resting. Right then, they all stood up. Who? Putting away the flying puppet, Yi Chen landed on the peak of the mountain and said with a smile, "Sorry to keep you guys waiting." "I am sorry. It is good that you are here." Yan Fengfeng studied Yi Chen and realized that his qi had become more profound. He should have made some kind of breakthrough. Letting out a breath slowly, Yan Fengfeng reminded him, "Yi Chen, this time, we are going to the Savage Ruin ancient place. You should be mentally prepared." The Savage Ruin ancient place. Yi Chen had heard about this place before. Instead of calling it a forbidden place, it was more like a region, because it was not much smaller than the South Rudra region. The Savage Ruin ancient place was very special, as it had kept its ancient style. Outside of it, the natural power formed a protective screen that covered the entire place, preventing the savage qi from leaking out. It was also a dangerous place, filled with the evil qi that was rarely seen in the outside world. It had a huge restriction on the warriors. Being in there, it would be very hard for the warriors to use their Xinyuan, and it would be able to corrode the warrior's mind. Normally, it would be fine, but once the warrior was injured or in a bad condition, it would be very easy for him to go crazy. Chapter 581. I am fine with it. I have been wanting to see the Savage Ruin ancient place for a long time. Yi Chen nodded. He had heard that the Savage Ruin ancient place was a training ground for all of the martial geniuses in the Sky Martial region. After reaching the Sea of Souls realm, if one did not go there before, they would be laughed at by others. Of course, most of the people would not go there just for the sake of their reputation. The reason that the Savage Ruin ancient place could attract people was because of its great value. It maintained the ancient style, and some of the rare spirit plants were not that rare in the outside world. Plus, the evil qi seemed to be very threatening, but it could actually strengthen the warrior's will. Swoosh! Yan Fengfeng took out a broken map from her storage ring and opened it. In the past, entering the savage desolate ancient land depended on luck. This time, I accidentally found an incomplete map. The area shown on the map is roughly southeast of the savage desolate ancient land. If we can find this area, it will make our exploration a lot safer. As she spoke, Yan Fengfeng showed the map to the other four. Yi Chen's eyes landed on the incomplete map and saw the shocking red dots marked on it. These red dots were all dangerous places, and according to the color of the red dots, the danger of those places could be determined. The red dots that were full of evil qi were the most dangerous. Besides that, there were other dots with different colors as well. But, it did not mean that it was not dangerous. After all these years, who knew what had changed in the Savage Ruin ancient place? The map could not tell everything, not to mention that it was just a broken map. It would be easier with a map than just running around randomly. Hai Wuya could tell the value of this map. If he took it out to auction, it would be a couple of times more valuable than a top-rank weapon. Putting away the map, Yan Fengfeng said, "Let's not waste time. Let's go now. With the speed of the flying ship, we should be able to get there in 4 days." Who? A huge silver ship that was dozens of meters long floated in the air. It was a massive puppet ship, which was even more valuable than Yi Chen's flying puppet. The puppet flying ship from the puppet martial school. I have wanted to have one for a long time, but unfortunately, I did not get the chance. Hai Wuya jumped in first, looking very familiar. It was obvious that he had worked with Yan Fengfeng before. Waiting until everyone was standing on the flat and spacious deck, Yan Fengfeng's forehead shone, and a red flame shot out from the back of the ship. A powerful counterforce acted on the ship, increasing its speed drastically. With a flash, it was already miles away. Yan Fengfeng, your luck has always been better than mine. In the future, when you get a better treasure, you have to sell this flying ship to me. Hai Wuya could not forget it. Yan Fengfeng chuckled, this flying ship is not easy to come by. If you want to find a puppet that is better than this, I am afraid there is no hope. Guan Qin said, Sister Yan, what is the function of this flying ship? Hai Wuya answered for Yan Fengfeng, this flying ship is a top-of-the-top-rank puppet ship. Its speed can reach 8 times the speed of sound, and the defensive layer on the outside can block dozens of spirit warriors' full-power attacks. Even a couple of master-level Sea of Souls realm warriors would not be able to break through it within a short period of time. Besides the defensive layer, there are a couple of puppet cannons on the ship, each of which has the power of a master-level Sea of Souls realm warrior's full-power attack. It can kill anyone below master level. Even master-level Sea of Souls realm warriors would not be able to handle the continuous attacks from the cannons. So powerful. Guan Qin sucked in a cold breath. It is indeed a rare treasure. Yi Chen compared it and realized that besides the speed advantage of his flying puppet, everything else was not worth mentioning. Yan Fengfeng said to Yi Chen, your flying puppet should also be made by the puppet martial school, right? Yi Chen nodded, it is way worse than your flying ship. You cannot say that. My flying ship consumes a lot of top-rank spirit stones, so it has to cover everything. Your flying puppet is much smaller, so it can only focus on one thing. With Yan Fengfeng's wealth, she would not use the flying ship for no reason either, because of its huge size. Just flying it would consume a lot of top-rank spirit stones, and if it were to be used in battle, it would consume a lot of top-rank spirit stones. Yi Chen remained silent. Through his soul power scan, he realized that there were Yuan Qi transmission channels all over the flying ship, and a huge amount of spirit stones and Yuan Qi were being sent up from the depths of the ship. It was endless, and the consumption rate was shocking. Based on his initial estimation, the transmission speed and quantity would be 10 times more than the flying puppet. The night got darker, and the flying ship disappeared into the darkness. The next day, it was sunny and sunny. Yi Chen and the rest stood on the deck, watching the clouds outside. What a puppet ship! It must be Yan Fengfeng, right? Not far away, a massive tiger with wings on its back approached them. On its back stood 7 to 8 young men. The leading young man had a huge body and a powerful aura. His eyes were like lightning, shining brightly. The person next to him was no weaker than him in terms of aura, having a wolf-like aura and a cold look in his eyes. Yan Fengfeng said lightly, so, it is Machi Lu, huh? Savage ruin ancient place, do not let me see you. Who knows, I might try to take your flying ship by force. The young man named Machi Lu laughed. The massive tiger with wings on its back flapped its wings, flying past the flying ship at a high speed. This guy is still so arrogant. Hai Wuya made a face. Head disciple, is he the young master of the Sky Tiger race, Machi Lu? Guan Qin knew quite a bit. Indeed. The Sky Tiger race is a demi-beast ancient king race, which is way more powerful than normal demi-beast king races. This guy's personality is not that great, but he is still very powerful. That person next to him should not be underestimated either. He is the second son of the demi-beast king race, blue-eyed white wolf Ao family, Ao Wubai. His power is not weaker than Machi Lu's. Ao Wubai from the Ao family. Yi Chen's expression changed. he did not expect to run into people from the AO family here. The blue-eyed white wolf bloodline of the AO family had left a deep impression on him. Of course, we do not have to be afraid of them. Mochi Lu's ancestor, the Sky Tiger King, was just like Yan Fengfeng's Blue Phoenix in terms of potential. He only had the bloodline of the Sky Tiger King. Although Hai Wuya said that, he actually did not want to boost the others' morale. If they really fought, it would be hard to tell who would be the more powerful one. After all, Yan Fengfeng was only at rank 9, which was equivalent to mid-Sea of Soul's realm. Even if the Blue Phoenix's potential was unparalleled, and it would not be weaker than any beast below the king level, it was still too low after all. Yan Fengfeng said, the Sky Tiger race is good at speed. The special ability from the Sky Tiger bloodline can shake souls, which is very powerful. Demi-beasts have special abilities as well. It should be very hard to train, right? Yi Chen said. Yan Fengfeng nodded. Only when the density of the demi-demon race's bloodline reaches a certain level would it be able to have special abilities. But, I heard that the perfect demi-demon bloodline of the demi-demon family would have even more powerful special abilities. Unfortunately, the demi-demon family has fallen too much, and there are not that many of them left. Indeed, they have fallen too much. The Yuan family seemed to be very powerful, but when it came to the whole continent, they were obviously not as powerful. It probably had something to do with the Yuan family's aggressive style, trying to control all the demi-demon families. Whatever benefits there were, the Yuan family would be the first to get it, while the other demi-demon families would be left behind. Furthermore, the demons' martial arts would not be shared either. If it went on like this, it would be weird if they could become powerful at all. However, Yuan Ye's special ability was indeed not weak. In fact, it was very powerful. I wonder what kind of special ability Murong will have when she reaches the Sea of Soul's realm. Yi Chen was looking forward to it. Oh right, Sister Yan, what is your special ability? Guan Qin suddenly asked. Yan Fengfeng laughed, you will see it in the Savage Ruin Ancient Place. Demi-beasts had special abilities, and so did the perfect demi-demon bloodline. As the Blue Phoenix, how could Yan Fengfeng not have a special ability? What was for sure was that her special ability would not be weaker than the perfect demi-demon bloodline. Time passed by one day after another. On the fourth day, in the morning, the five had finally arrived at the edge of the Savage Ruin Ancient Place. Looking over, the sky in front of them was all gray, like a massive barrier that had separated the sky and the earth. There are strong barriers and weak ones. We need to find a weak spot to attack. Yan Fengfeng directed the flying ship to fly, her eyes filled with blue flame as she scanned the barrier. Yi Chen pointed in front of them, there is the weakest spot. Oh! Hai Wuya and Yan Fengfeng looked at Yi Chen with surprise. In such a short time, they would not be able to find the weak spot. They did not expect Yi Chen to be able to tell it with just one glance. This kind of observation was indeed shocking. Without any time to waste, under Yan Fengfeng's control, a huge cannon rose up from the front of the flying ship. There was a powerful fire element yuan qi accumulating at the mouth of the cannon, which eventually turned into a dark red light bullet. Boom! The light bullet shot out in a straight line, landing on the weak spot of the gray barrier. Gotcha! The barrier was broken, and a tunnel that was dozens of meters wide and long appeared. The edge of the tunnel was dark red, which was obviously the result of the compressed fire element yuan qi. Let's go! The flying ship increased its speed and rushed into the tunnel. Sword of the Heaven and Earth. At this moment, a group of young men appeared in the air not far away from them. The leader of the group used his finger as a sword and pointed at the sky. Heaven and Earth yuan qi gathered and condensed into a huge sword shadow in front of him. The sword shadow flashed and pierced a big hole in the barbarian barrier in front of them. Looking over his shoulder, Hai Wuya's pupils shrank. It is Tai Shichong. Who? The flying ship entered the tunnel. Tai Shichong is one of the top 3 young sword masters. I did not expect him to be here as well. This man is extremely powerful. He can use the heaven and earth as his sword. Judging on attacking power, he is right behind the top 5 young warriors. Even Duanlingya from the Ice Spirit Martial School had been defeated by him before. How could anyone that Hai Wuya paid attention to be someone ordinary? Even when he was facing Lin Ku and Duanlingya, he didn't have such an expression. After all, the former's strength was on par with his, and the latter's attributes were the bane of his, not much stronger than his. Very powerful. Do not fight with him unless it is absolutely necessary. There were a lot of rare treasures in the Savage Ruin ancient place, and some of them were enough to start a bloody battle. Yen Fengfeng was not afraid of Tai Shichong. She was not even afraid of the top 5 young warriors, and there was still a gap between them. But, she was fast, and the others were much slower. If she were to fight with Tai Shichong, someone would definitely die. Yeah! Ling Tianhao and Guan Qin both nodded. Tai Shichong was too famous, and was no weaker than Yen Fengfeng. If they were to fight with him, they would not be confident at all. Yichen glanced at Tai Shichong, who was outside of the tunnel. That sword chi on his body seemed to be shooting up into the sky. It was the sword chi connection between 2 top sword artists. If they ran into each other, they would either be friends or enemies. There would be no third choice. Shoo! The tunnel was very long, and the flying ship soon disappeared into the deep end. Chapter 582. As soon as they entered the savage desolate ancient grounds, everyone felt a change in the heavens and the earth, as if they'd arrived at the chaotic ancient times. Boundless and vast savage chi assaulted their faces, and the majestic aura caused their true essence to stop circulating, causing the circulation speed of their true essence to suddenly decrease by half. The sky here was gray, heavy, and oppressive. The ground was slightly dark, hard, and solid. The mountains were steep and dangerous, with sharp edges. The river was fast-flowing and crisscrossing. If the outside world gave them the feeling of being bright and lively, then the Savage Ruin ancient place gave them the feeling of being solid, with a sense of history and danger. This is the Savage Ruin ancient place. This is the ancient Savage Land. It is indeed different from the outside world. It is also different from most of the forbidden areas. If the forbidden areas are like poisonous snakes, then the ancient Savage Land is like a ferocious beast. It was Ling Tianhao's first time coming to the ancient Savage Land. He couldn't help but compare the ancient Savage Land to the forbidden areas. Yen Fengfeng said, although some of the forbidden places are in different places and do not have any contact with the land, they are not as big as the Savage Ruin ancient place. Hai Wuya said, actually, there are forbidden places in the Savage Ruin ancient place as well. There are a lot of unknown things, and no one has been able to fully understand them until now. Hai Wuya and Yen Fengfeng had been here twice, so their knowledge of the place was way beyond the other 3. So, they were not surprised at all. Such a dangerous evil chi. It has combined with the natural environment. Yichen lifted up his right hand, seeming to have sensed something invisible. You have also sensed the evil chi. Hai Wuya was a bit surprised. Most of the people knew that there was evil chi in the Savage Ruin ancient place, but the people who had just entered could not sense its existence at all. The evil chi here was like a slow poison, invading the warriors' bodies without them noticing. By the time they sensed it, they would have already been poisoned by the evil chi. I can barely sense it. Yichen faintly nodded. The void-shattering finger art contained the space mentality, so how could the savage evil chi hidden in the void escape his senses? If he could comprehend the void-shattering finger art to 60% and comprehend the space profound, he would even be able to distinguish the density of the savage evil chi. Impressive. Judging only on perception, there are not many people who are more powerful than you. Hai Wuya sighed. Kacha. The barrier next to them was broken open, and Tai Shichong and the rest flew in. Yi Chen and the other 4 looked over. There were 6 people in this group, and the leader was indeed one of the top 3 sword master warriors, Tai Shichong. He was wearing a yellow robe, looking skinny with a sharp look in his eyes. There was a long sword with a sharkskin sheath on his waist. As he walked, the natural chi was affected by his sword chi, turning sharp. Besides Tai Shicheng, there were two other people who had caught Yi Chen's attention. They were a pair of twin brothers, and their appearance and temperament were very similar. One of them was tall and muscular, while the other had wide shoulders and long legs, which made him look even taller. As Yi Chen and the other four looked at them, they looked over as well, revealing a faint smile on their faces. "Let's go." Tai Shicheng glanced at Yan Fengfeng and did not even look at the others. As he spoke, he led the group and flew out. Waiting until Tai Shicheng and the other five walked away, Ling Tianhao said in annoyance, "What kind of look is that? So arrogant." Hai Wuya laughed, "Why should we care about other people's attitude? We are here to explore. If we really run into each other, then we will have to rely on our own power." Hai Wuya is right. Brother Ling, your mentality is still lacking a little bit. You need to train more. Yan Fengfeng said. Ling Tianhao smiled embarrassedly. It is getting late. Let's go. Yi Chen suggested. Yeah, let's find the area on the map first. As they spoke, the five flew toward the southeast direction. The savage ruin ancient place was extremely vast. Under the pressure of that heavy chi, the flying ship could only barely maintain 3 to 4 times the speed of sound. It was not impossible to increase its speed, but it would consume more spirit stones, since the faster the speed, the more resistance there would be, and the more power it would require. That was a flying lizard, right? It is actually a couple of times more powerful than the ones outside. Under the continuous attacks from the flying ship, it was only slightly wounded. Soon, they had been attacked a couple of times by beasts. Among them, the biggest threat was a massive lizard with a pair of bone wings. It was only rank 9, but its battling power was as powerful as a master-level Sea of Souls realm warrior. With one claw attack, it had blown the flying ship dozens of meters away. If it were not for the fact that the defensive layer of the flying ship was extremely powerful, the body of the ship would have been damaged for sure, since the body of the flying ship was not indestructible. Yan Fengfeng said, "It is not a flying lizard. It is an even more powerful bone-wing lizard. Its defense and power are extremely powerful, and it is one of the more difficult ancient beasts to deal with." Hai Wuya said, "The pair of bone wings of the lizard could be made into bone-wing items, which could increase one's speed. Unfortunately, we did not manage to block it. Wing-type items were priceless in the true spirit continent. Although it could not increase one's attacking power or defense, with it, one's speed would increase to another level. If one were to run into danger, they would be able to escape any time they wanted." Yi Chen said, "It would be hard to catch it. This bone-wing lizard knows some of the space profound. Once it flapped its bone wings, it would be able to flash for a short distance." It was not that rare for beasts to know the profound sense, since some of the more talented ones would be able to learn it naturally. As time went on, their achievements in the profound sense would not be any weaker than human beings. But of course, in general, human beings would still have the biggest advantage. Soon, it was already afternoon. In the sky, a burning sun hung in the sky, bringing with it a primal heat. On the deck, the five sat with their legs crossed, chatting about what they had seen and heard. "Yi Chen, I did not expect you to be this experienced. I have heard about the fog forbidden zone in the Star Regional Lake. I heard that even Sea of Souls realm warriors would have a hard time getting out. You were only at the astral reaching realm back then, and you were able to leave the forbidden zone in such a short time." Hearing Yi Chen's story, Hai Wuya sighed. Yi Chen said, "There was some luck in it. Without power, luck would be useless." "Yeah." Yan Fengfeng nodded, "Luck is for powerful people. Even if normal people get lucky, they would not be able to use it to its fullest potential." The ship was still flying. All of a sudden, the sky darkened a bit. Everyone looked up and could not help but frown. They could see a huge black area spreading out from the horizon. One could not even see the end of it, as if the darkness was eating away at the light. Such a huge dark cloud. Guan Qin was a bit scared. I am afraid it is not a dark cloud. As they spoke, Yi Chen spread out his soul power, reaching 500 miles away. Once his soul power made contact with that spreading black area, he said with a low voice, "It is a locust." What? Locust? Could it be the savage locust? Hai Wuya and Yan Fengfeng stood up suddenly, looking very serious. They did not even have the mood to ask how Yi Chen knew that it was a locust. Soon, that endless black area spread out to hundreds of miles away. It is indeed the savage locust. There are billions of them. In Yan Fengfeng's vision, a black mass of ferocious locusts swarmed over. They were dozens of times bigger than normal locusts, and were the size of a fist. A black chi flow was being emitted from their bodies, and their eyes were red. Their limbs were extremely sharp like blades. Then let's back out. Guan Qin and Ling Tianhao both stood up. We cannot back out directly. We can only try to break through from the left or the right. We have to follow the direction of the locusts. No matter how far we go, it will be useless. Yi Chen said. Yi Chen is right. Everyone, get ready. We will try to break through to the left now. Do not let the locusts get close. Otherwise, we will be drowned in them. Yan Fengfeng's forehead shone as 3 silver sails rose up from the middle of the ship. As the sails moved, the flying direction of the ship changed drastically, flying toward the left at an extreme speed. Meanwhile, Yi Chen and the other 3 all stood in front of the railing on the right, in case the locusts would attack them and blow the ship away. Shoo! The speed of the ship slowly increased, and it had already reached 4 times the speed of sound. As for getting off the ship, although the speed would be faster than the ship itself, it would be even more dangerous for a single person to face the endless locusts. There was a possibility of dying at any second. 100 miles was too short a distance. Within the time of 10 breaths, the locusts had already spread out, covering the entire sky. Endless ocean. Hai Wuya was the first to attack. He threw out a palm attack, blowing out a huge amount of locusts, making it impossible for them to reach the ship. Flood Godly Fist. Mysterious Sky Hammer. Guan Qin and Ling Tianhao did not dare to waste any time as they performed their best martial arts together with Hai Wuya, attacking toward the locusts coming from the right. However, there were just too many of them, and they kept coming at them without an end in sight. The 3 tried their best, but still could not stop the advance of the locusts. Jin Yuan Strings. It was Yi Chen's last attack, but it was the most effective one. His body shook once as countless blue strings shot out, spreading out in a fan shape with him as the center. Those locusts that came in contact with the strings started to fall down like rain. With Yi Chen's help, Hai Wuya and the other 2 felt a lot more relaxed. But the situation was still not looking good, because it was just a black mass of locusts in front of them and behind them. They would not be able to tell the direction at all. If the ship moved even a little bit, they would be lost in that endless swarm of locusts. Boom! 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 After adjusting the ship, Yan Fengfeng controlled the cannons to attack automatically. Each cannon's power was equivalent to a full power attack from a master-level Sea of Souls realm warrior. Plus, the bullets that were shot out had an explosive effect, which could burn countless locusts to death. Yan Fengfeng herself was not doing nothing either. Her body was covered in blue flame, and the pattern in between her eyebrows started to burn as well. She took a deep breath and waved her right hand toward the sky. A phoenix made of blue flame spread its wings, and wherever it went, the locusts fell down one after another. The phoenix did not disappear after that, instead, it started to fly in the air, blocking out the attacks of the locusts. There is someone in front of us. As he attacked, Yi Chen saw light coming out from the gaps of the locusts. It was flashing continuously, and it was obvious that someone was battling with the locusts. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.